Okay, this is one of the last problems I'm going to do. It's number 13, and it's similar to the one that we just did. Again, step 1 is to make sure it's in general form. So this negative 30 needs to be moved to the other side. So since it's a negative 30, you need to do the opposite. So we need to add 30 to both sides. We know negative 30 plus 30 is 0, which is what we wanted. And then we're going to add 30 to this 70 because they're like terms. So that gives us 100. And then we're left with x squared minus 24x on the left as well. So step 1 is done. Step 2, remember, is writing out a, b, and c. So a is 1. B is a negative 24. It's important to remember that it's negative. Make sure you have that down. And c is 100. Now we're just plugging it into the quadratic formula. So we have negative b, so negative, and then our b, which is negative 24, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is b is negative 24, make sure you have that in parentheses, minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. And again, make sure you divide the whole numerator by the denominator. Now we just need to simplify. Negative times a negative is a positive, so positive 24 plus or minus the square root, and negative 24 squared is 576, and 4 times 1 times 100 we know is 400, all divided by 2. Simplifying again, we have 24 plus or minus the square root of 176 divided by 2, and we see that the square root of 176 is not a perfect square, so we need to look at factors of 176. And we know 2 times 88 is 176, so write this down on the side. 2 times 88. Neither one of those are perfect squares, so let's move on. Let's see if 3 times anything gives us 176. So 176 divided by 3, that doesn't go into it evenly. 176 divided by 4, so this one doesn't work. 4 times 44 will give us 176, and 4 is a perfect square, so that's 1. Let's see if there's anything higher. We know another perfect square after 4 is 9, right? Because this is 2 times 2, and this would be 3 times 3. So 9, does anything times 9 give us 176? So 176 divided by 9, nope, that doesn't work. So let's use 4 and 44. So 4 times 44, that's the square root of 4 times the square root of 44. And we know the square root of 4 is 2. And we see that we actually didn't simplify enough because we know that the square root of 44 is the square root of 4 times 11. And we're going to split it up again. So we know we need this 2 in the end. This will become square root of 4 times square root of 11. And the square root of 4 is 2. And we can't do anything with that 11. So we actually have our 2 times 2, which is 4, and then square root of 11. So that's what we're going to write square root of 176 as. So 24 plus or minus 4 square root of 11 divided by 2. And now we're going to split it up into 2 fractions. So 24 divided by 2 plus or minus 4 root 11 divided by 2. And now we're going to simplify. 24 divided by 2 is 12, plus or minus 4 divided by 2, you can cancel those out. We're left with 2 times the square root of 11. And these are our zeros for this problem. Now, going back to what we did here, we could see that if we kept going, if we tried 16, we could see that 16 times 11 will give us 176. So if we kept going, we could see that that's the case. So we could split that up into being square root of 16 times the square root of 11. And we know the square root of 16 is 4, and then this drops down. So we would get the same thing if we kept going, but even if you started with the lower one like we did, 4 times 44, you should get to the same thing as long as you keep simplifying. So when we got here, we could still simplify the square root of 44. So make sure you keep simplifying as much as you can until you can't simplify the square root of 11 anymore. So